In November 1708, the grounds of Loseley Park became the scene of a murder. An unusual trial followed. Jane Young was a servant girl who lived with her parents in the nearby village of Compton, and was regularly seen in the company of her young man, one Christopher Slaughterford, whom, it was generally understood, she was to marry. Christopher, aged 26, was the son of a miller, born at Wisborough Green in Sussex and apprenticed at Godalming. After serving his apprenticeship, he took a malt house at Shelford, with his aunt as his housekeeper. He had earned the reputation of being sober and honest, and having earned a moderate amount of money, he began to pay his attentions to Jane, a charming local girl. They did their courting in and around Shelford and Compton, no doubt looking forward to their coming marriage. The last time they were seen out together was on the evening of October the 5th, 1708. It was to be the last time that Jane Young was seen alive. During this time, public suspicion had fallen on Christopher that he had murdered her, which had become so intense that, despite protesting his innocence, Christopher voluntarily surrendered himself to Guildford's Justices of the Peace, Captain Boothby and Mr. Fulham. They discharged him. A month later, a local farmhand made a sinister discovery when he found the body of Jane Young in a copse on the Loseley estate. As word of this find spread through the locality, the public outcry against Christopher Slaughterford increased. As the threats continued, Christopher voluntarily submitted himself to a third magistrate and earnestly requested that he be brought to trial. Mr. Worth agreed and committed him to Guildford's House of Correction until the following Saturday. The local magistrates then committed him for a further week and then sent him to the Marshalsea prison in London. He was tried at the next assizes in Kingston and discharged once again. Although acquitted, it seems that the greater part of the neighbourhood still thought him guilty, and in the light of the evidence given during his trial at Kingston, Christopher was still kept in custody for his own protection. Jane's parents and relations continued to push for another trial. An appeal was successfully lodged by her brother. Accordingly, he was tried again by a Surrey jury at the Court of the Queen's Bench before Lord Chief Justice Holt. The evidence presented was substantially the same as that heard at Kingston.
My lord, my name is Elizabeth Chapman, and Jane Young was a service maid in my employ. She left her position with me as she was to become married to the prisoner. She purchased clothes for the occasion and said she was to meet him the following Sunday. Some time later, I inquired after Jane and was told that she had been seen in the company of Slaughterford. But, my lord, no one could tell me what had become of her since, and he pretended he knew nothing of her whereabouts.
I saw Jane in the company of the accused on the night the murder was committed. I was out on Loseley Common setting rabbit snares at 3 o'clock in the morning when I was passed by a man and a woman about a quarter of a mile from where the body was found. The man was wearing light-coloured clothes. Soon after I passed them by, I heard a scream, like the voice of a woman.
After Jane went missing, I asked Mr. Slaughterford what had become of his lady. He said, "I've put her off. Do you know of any girl who has money? I have a way of putting her off now."
Before the discovery of the murder, I said to Mr. Slaughterford, "But what if Jane Young should come and lay a child to you, as mine is here?" And he sighed, and he said, "But that is now impossible." And he cried till the tears ran down his cheeks.
"But I tell you, Christopher lay at home on the night that the murder was committed."
Christopher Slaughterford, you have been found guilty of the murder of Jane Young. The sentence of this court is that you be taken from here to a lawful prison, and thence to Guildford, the county town of Surrey, there to suffer execution for your heinous crime. And may the Lord have mercy on your soul.
Christopher was visited in prison by the local priest, who urged him to confess, but without result. He eventually asked to see Mr. Woodruff, a minister from Guildford. It was thought that he would make a confession, but what he said tended only to confirm his earlier declarations of his complete innocence. Following his conviction on appeal, not even Queen Anne herself had the power to pardon, and he was brought to Guildford and placed in the House of Correction's condemned cell.
Being brought here to die, I thought myself obliged to let the world know that I know nothing of the death of Jane Young, nor how she came by her death, directly or indirectly. However, I freely forgive all my enemies, and pray to God to give them a due sense of their errors, and in due time to bring the truth to light.
On the morning of Saturday, July the 9th, 1709, Christopher Slaughterford was led from the door of Guildford's ancient Guildhall to the gallows. There he paid the ultimate price for a crime he almost certainly didn't commit. On the second night after his execution, Slaughterford's ghost is reputed to have appeared to Roger Valor while he was walking home past the Three Tuns. Valor, who had given evidence at Slaughterford's trial, was nearly sent mad at the sight of the huge ghostly apparition that confronted him. And to this day, Slaughterford's terrifying ghost can still be seen in Guildford's Tunsgate Arch.
Vengeance!
Crying out the word vengeance, and with the hangman's noose still around his neck, he carries a burning torch, haunting the spot outside the Guildhall where he perished on the gallows nearly 300 years ago.
Vengeance!